throughout
What was
the
it like?
study.
You spent a year at the FDA?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was really concerning, to be honest. Yeah.
When was that?
2019 to 2020. Yeah.
Why was it concerning?
So FDA receives a lot of funding from the pharmaceutical industry. And I'll talk about a few things here. So I've always been interested in drug safety. That's actually what I do now. I help people come off meds after they've had side effects. And that's always been my interest. One of the issues is because the agency is funded by the pharmaceutical industry through PDUFA. This is a congressional law. I think they have 70% funding. What it does is it tilts the agency towards certain activities. So when pharma hands over money to the agency, they say, we're going to give you this money, but every time we give you an application for a drug, you need to review it within 9 months because, our patents are going to expire. And so you need to get it done in 9 months. Every time there's a protocol that comes in, you need to look at it within 30 days. There's nothing, I think, on face, that bad about it. Hey, it makes sense. There's commercial interest here and they want to get something. But what it actually does at the reviewer level is that all of our resources go towards drug development activities. And so we're reviewing protocols for the drug companies rather than following up on safety issues. So there could be something like, PSSD, which I'd like to talk about later on. It's a serious sexual dysfunction problem, or all these different side effects going on that need reports and that need attention from medical reviewers. Those were all just put on the back burner. They were neglected because the way success in our division was measured was that we were just getting these things, these activities done on time. And so there was much more of an emphasis on drug development activities. Now, the other thing that was really disturbing about being at the FDA, it's not so much the agency, but it kind of speaks to academic psychiatry as a whole. Now, as I mentioned before, I think we're almost brainwashed when we go through our training to internalize these beliefs, that these psychiatric conditions, they kind of morph and they evolve and they can get worse. To criticize the medications is to be morally bad and to be stigmatizing the mentally ill and scaring people away from medications. Lots of academics, they end up working at the FDA. That's just a natural progression for them. And many of the people there had those beliefs. And so I didn't actually, when I looked at a lot of the colleagues that I was working with there, they were so hesitant to call out problems with medications. I think the really cynical side of me says, maybe there was a laziness component, because if you identify a problem, you kind of have to deal with it and you have to do a report. But I actually think it was more that they had been so kind of sucked into this narrative that they needed to protect the drugs, and they needed to, they needed to be kind of advocates for them. So rather than actually doing good science and really having a critical look at all of the problems that were happening with them, like the withdrawal problems, like PSSD, really clear issues, they were so hesitant to call it out. So I feel like it had been captured by industry just through all of that messaging.
We did an interview with a woman called Casey Means. She's a Stanford-educated surgeon and really one of the most remarkable people I have ever met. In the interview, she explained how the food that we eat, produced by huge food companies, big food, in conjunction with pharma, is destroying our health, making this a weak and sick country. The levels of chronic disease are beyond belief. What Casey Means, who we've not stopped thinking about ever since, is the co-founder of a healthcare technology company called Levels. And we are proud to announce today that we are partnering with Levels. And by proud, I mean sincerely proud. Levels is a really interesting company and a great product. It gives you insight into what's going on inside your body, your metabolic health. It helps you understand how the food that you're eating, the things that you're doing every single day are affecting your body in real time. and you don't think about it. You have no idea what you're putting in your mouth, and you have no idea what it's doing to your body. But over time, you feel weak and tired and spacey, and over an even longer period of time, you can get really sick. So it's worth knowing what the food you eat is doing to you. The Levels app works with something called a continuous glucose monitor, a CGM. You can get one as part of the plan, or you can bring your own. It doesn't matter. But the bottom line is big tech, big pharma, and big food combine together to form an incredibly malevolent force, pumping you full of garbage, unhealthy food with artificial sugars, and hurting you and hurting the entire country. So with Levels, you'll be able to see immediately what all of this is doing to you. You get access to real-time personalized data, and that's a critical step to changing your behavior. Those of us who like Oreos can tell you firsthand. This isn't talking to your doctor at an annual physical, looking backwards about things you did in the past. This is up to the second information on how your body is responding to different foods and activities, the things that give you stress, your sleep, et cetera, et cetera. It's easy to use. It gives you powerful, personalized health data, and then you can make much better choices about how you feel. And over time, it'll have a huge effect. Right now, you can get an additional 2 free months when you go to levels.link/Tucker. That's levels.link/Tucker. This is the beginning of what we hope will be a long and happy partnership with Levels and Dr. Casey Means.
Okay. I'm not surprised by that. That's known, as you well know, as regulatory capture, and regulators are cut off from the effects of the drugs that they're regulating because they're not treating patients. So I'm not making excuses, but I'm not surprised. What I am surprised by is the behavior of clinicians, of physicians prescribing these drugs to individual people with whom they're in regular contact, and they somehow don't notice that these people are not getting better and then killing themselves or going through all these other problems that are the results of side effects. Like, why don't the doctors notice this? Like, where are the decent doctors?
So there are decent doctors out there, and people are waking up to this. But a lot of the rank and file physicians, again, they have been marinating in a soup of just marketing messages. Like when you see someone who is getting worse, like you put them on an SSRI and they have a manic type reaction to it.
Does that happen?
That does happen. Yeah, this is a side effect. Rather than saying, "Oh, we made you manic because we put you on this SSRI," you can just say, "You have bipolar disorder. You know, you were depressed before, but you know now because you're manic, you have bipolar disorder." There was always this tilt towards viewing worsening as the underlying condition, and so many people are trained in that way.
Is there evidence to support that?
No, there's no evidence to support it. It's like the whole diagnostic criteria in psychiatry, it's completely subjective. It's just, you just kind of, do you have these symptoms? Okay, maybe you have bipolar disorder. And there's a very limited education about the side effects. It's also easier for doctors to look at worsening as the development of a new condition, because what that means is, one, I'm not at fault, because, I put this person on the drug and they're worse. But two, if I just diagnose them as having a new condition, I can just hand them another drug. It's very kind of quick to just say, okay, well, now you have bipolar disorder. Don't worry, we've got a drug for that. And it allows you to kind of treat them in a very quick way, rather than going through the mess of saying, hey, this was a drug side effect. Now we have to get you off of it. That's a lot of a much more involved process.
It sounds like the culture of medicine in this country is really kind of anti-human. I mean, like, what about the people? I'm sorry, I'm being mean, but
No, I mean, it is. I mean, it's a practice that has been really destroyed by a whole range of bad influences. I mean, one, we can't trust our academics, because so many of the academics that teach doctors are actually on the payroll of pharmaceutical companies. They are in positions of power because of assistance from the drug companies. We also have a health insurance system that incentivizes doctors to see patients in the shortest period of time. You don't get incentivized to make someone well. you get incentivized to just kind of churn through them. And so you make nearly, like if you were to see one patient for, 45 minutes to an hour, you essentially make half as much as if you were to just churn through 4 patients within that period of time. So even doctors have this incentive just to default to the fastest thing, which is to diagnose someone off a checklist and give them a drug, because that's a hell of a lot easier than understanding their life and their relationships and their work and their health and all of that. And so that's really what's happened.